Hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Contrary to what you've been led to believe and in practice, like the guys that say he reads 2 books a day and that bullshit. Would you read that out for me, please? Yeah.
Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into the lazy habits of thinking.
And who said it?
Albert Einstein.
And what have you done? This may be a Trump exaggeration. Now that that era seems to be over temporarily. I'm going to have to start using other examples other than this is a Trumpism, meaning I'm exaggerating. But I maybe read 10 books in my life, maybe. I couldn't add them up if I had to. I can add 4 or 5. I can take 4 or 5. And I've read the Bible and the Quran, are 2 of them. I haven't read the New Testament. I read the Old Testament of the Bible. So that's 2. I read my book. That's 3. I read Think and Grow Rich. That's 4. I've read Release Your Brakes. That's 5. I'm fucking hard pressed to go beyond 5. Now I've read Shakespeare and stuff like that, but not, all his bullshit. I've read some Churchill, but not, he's got 82 volumes of some shit in Churchill. But those 5 books. There's not anybody in this room that has read less books than I. And I've been saying that for 27 and a half years. You've been led to believe, misled, I should say, instead of led, you've been misled to believe that reading is taking action. And it's not. Reading is not taking action. Taking action is pulling the fucking trigger and flipping a page or on is it called a Kindle? You read shit from? Okay. That's not taking action. Listening to a podcast is not taking action. Does everybody understand that? No, you're raking your head, yeah, but just going in this here and out that here. Because I went through your files again last night after I went through the homework. And I tried to figure out, I went through your file, specifically, a shoe fucker over here, and I wanted to know how can he possibly think this, vis-a-vis something he wrote. And then I went back to his file, and I tried to find a dot to connect. And there isn't any. I went to yours, pendeja and pendejo. Herman Goering here. Clark Kent, how in the fuck? What is it in their background? What is it? And remember when we were talking about generational stupidity? Remember that chart? And we got different generations, I just pointed out. He's from a different generation than you. So generational stupidity is more than one generation. More than 2 generations. And I've been saying it's about 2.5 generations we've been fucked. And a generation, depending on how you want to, whose benchmark or whose book you read, it's between 20 and 25 years. But there was no correlation. It's just generational stupidity. There's no correlation to the kinds of questions you ask. Because I really work at this. I'm selfish. I want to hit $2 trillion. And something's got to change. The new seminar seems to, for all the wrong reasons, work. It used to, in the 90s, the financial aspect of the seminar, to the extent that there is any, and there really isn't any, came the last day. After lunch. After fucking lunch. And we used to drink at lunch in those days. So with a buzz on, from 2:30 till 5:30 is when you got the beef, as they used to say in the commercials. Where's the fucking beef? And that's where all the billionaires came out. I'm trumping it now, exaggerating. But now, other than holding your hand and doing the deal, you seem to, because you've grown up on webinars, you've grown up on podcasts, even the old gits. And so that's your, unfortunately, your most comfortable format for learning. And what did I tell you about being comfortable? The hitters, the superstars, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I got a bunch of emails again. One-upsmanship, how long's your dick? And so a bunch of other guys saying, well, those deals are shit. The one guy here, I read you the guy that says, I'm finally in the billions. But then they see, I'm being chased constantly by two very big private equity firms. He names them. My board wants to hold up. Now, see, the board that believed in only putting in private equity, now that they've done a bunch of deals, my board wants to hold off and continue to fund via commercial debt. I made them all millionaires, and they see how now that this could easily be a billion-dollar company within the next few years. But this was because I remember these assholes. It's a British deal. Private equity is the only way. Now, it's a different story. It's a different story. We're inundated because of the electronic age, or I don't know what kind of age we call ourselves now, with too much information. And our ability to just make gut instinct calls is almost a bygone era. There's not many people left that, not just like me, but I mean, that can make a gut call and live with it. And don't confuse me with the facts and all the things that we've said. There's a few, but not many. Not many. Because you want to placate yourself with information so when it goes wrong, you've got something to blame. When you go wrong with just your gut instinct on a decision, who do you blame? Who do you blame? And I've known this for a long time. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't know anybody else that talks about this in a seminar. Because they got a book to sell you. Last night, the tennis player with 8 wives, or 8 ex-wives, I believe, who I talked to, not dissimilar than when I talked to W. Clement Stone 20 years ago before he died. What are some of the takeaways or comments about the old Git? And he is an old cantankerous Git, believe me. Yes, sir, in the back.
It's all about Nick Baby.
Yeah.
A guy who couldn't play but can think about how to win teaches people who can play how to think like winners and keeps score for himself.
Only himself.
By counting his winners.
Correct.
And if you stop winning, he not only fires you, dispenses of you, he either doesn't remember having done it or he feigns that he doesn't remember it because it doesn't make any difference to him.
1,000% opposite of everybody in this room. The greatest tennis coach in the history of the planet who can't play tennis. And you want to know the why. Do you see on the face of it how ludicrous your thought process is? Other than it's generational stupidity. But I don't want to blame it on generational stupidity, because otherwise I wouldn't have created all this money, because somehow I can break through the generational stupidity and get kids to react. I'm the best on the planet to get you what you don't want to do to have what you want to have in life. There is nobody better. To get you what you don't want to do to have what you want to have. There is nobody better. When I first started in the first seminar in May 1993 at the Sheraton Hotel in Los Angeles, I had 63 or 64 people that each paid $1,000 for a one-day seminar. Bruce the Whipple was there. Several Hall of Famers were there. And we started at 8 in the morning, and we went from 8 till 8, no breaks. No coffee, no water, no fucking lunch, nothing. And then from 8 on, I answered questions. And I'd go 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning until the last question was answered. And that was the seminar. That was the seminar. I had nothing to sell, no books, nothing. That was it. Adios, motherfucker. And I thought then, wrongfully, that I'd hit $1 trillion. I alluded to this earlier in the first day. 5 years, 7 years, or sooner. Not 22 years or 23, whatever it goes, Because I underestimated, or I didn't understand that everybody didn't have self-esteem. I don't know why I didn't know it, but I didn't know it because the people that I hung with, to the extent that I hung with it, were all assassins. All killers. And, fuck. This ought to be easy peasy. I was so wrong. Just like I was wrong about apps. God, I was so wrong. I didn't understand. And it took me a few years of shock to finally get through that, and then have to readjust and readapt the seminar to what. And I thought those guys were weak cunts. Fuck me. I bring back the 90s, please. Those were when men were still men and had a pair of balls. And I've seen the deterioration of mankind. I should write a book, The Deterioration of the Human Race. I've seen from 1993 till today, till you, this august body of personalities. Okay, what about Nick? What else about Nick? Yes, sir, in the back.
I think it was Courier who said he was never correcting your serve, he was correcting your attitude, and it was never a match, it was all-out war, even in practice, everything.
When you say these things about the icons that we've looked at in the movies, I sense an air of not shock in your voices, but surprise. That you didn't know all high-performance people consider this war. That all high-performance individuals are only results-orientated. Like you didn't know before. Of all those books you read, how come you didn't read that? I know some of you have read The Art of War. That's another book I read, by the way. That's the sixth book. The Art of War, which I think is But the art of war talks about winning, but without fighting. The real winner wins before, but the bullshit. What else about Nick? Yes, ma'am.
So even though we have the skills to win, to accomplish something, it may not be enough. We have to have a strong mental stage. Don't carry too much of emotional. Just stay on being cold, focused.
Bjorn Borg, which retired when he was still in his 20s, they used to call him the icy Swede, or I forget whatever it was, but because his personality didn't change from when he won or when he lost, or it was always the same. And he had they used to call it emotions in check. I don't know what they call it now, but emotions in check, because he didn't get too excited, or he didn't get too sad. He never got sad, and just didn't get too excited, because it was, the next battle, the next battle, the next battle. And then when he retired after he won, 5, 6, or straight Wimbledons or something like that. But you've never been around people like that. Not even, remotely. We've had some, not world-class athletes, but we've had some, by my standards, which my benchmark is low, super athletes that talk about being around Jim Brown. They were on Jim Brown's football team, the Browns, when they were the world champions before the NFL started. And the quarterback of that team, who was a college professor at Rice University that I knew, still alive, and he talked about how Jim Brown was, the animal. They used to call him an animal. And he's a fullback that, maybe he was a halfback. I think he was a fullback. That he, most of his records for rushing, lasted 20, 30, 40 years. And he didn't like anybody. He assaulted people. He was just a fucking animal. Duh. What else about Nick? Yes, sir.
So 2 things. On Nick's side, as a coach, he needs to terminate the relationship with Andre Agassi because he's too comfortable with him. He stopped winning, basically. And on Andre Agassi, there's this kind of anger that...
Not kind of anger, he still hates him today, this morning.
Nick let him go without, by just giving a letter. And that gives him the...
Well, I thought Agassi read about it first in the newspaper, and then he got a letter. But that I'm not saying that's not the way I would do it. I like to fire people eyeball to eyeball. We've had kids that come through the seminar, successful kids, that text firing. That's called chicken shit. No balls. But we got no balls, so that's just the way you do it now. Nick was, I'm on board, pull up the gangplank. If you're not adding value to my brand by winning championships, I'm not interested. So what's so strange about that? That's the real world. But the real takeaway is he didn't know how to play tennis. Yet you want to, fucking Clark Kent over there wants to know why. He's not the only one. But of the 10 or 12 questions he's asked, you only have to move 3 or 4 words around. It's the same question. What single thing is it? You only have to move 3 words. 10 questions. Is everybody? Am I the only one that is hearing that, or am I much more smart? I'm living in the parallel world. Same fucking question. Move 3 words. And down deep inside, you still want to know why. You still. Bloody shocking to me. What else about Nick. Yes, sir, in the back.
I think the main thing was it was in the title. Love means zero. Means shit.
Pardon?
Love means zero.
Well, I was hoping somebody was going to get around to that, but otherwise I was. It means actually less than zero. Doesn't mean zero. I said the first day, if love and religion got the fucking job done, you would not be in this room. We would not just have the U.S. in the middle of almost a race fucking riot because Biden and Trump. We would not have, the world would be all cleaned up. And who gravitates towards love and religion? Poor people. And Lenin said it best, religion is the opiate of the people. And if they can believe in God on faith, right? Because that's the only way you can, or some higher power, but you can't believe in this. Now, if I wasn't a real human being, well, I'm not so human, but a real person, and I was just like a hologram, and I never really existed, and somebody created me and artificial intelligence, maybe you'd believe better. But the truth of the matter is, kids, not all of you really want to make money. I've had so many kids come through here and say, I want to be billionaire. Billionaire. Sounds cool. I don't like that word, but I know my kids use it. Cool, that sounds cool. As soon as they make $50 million, I never hear from them again. Never. Not a postcard, not a fuck you, nothing. You will never exceed your most highest expectation. You want to make 10 million, you make 10 million in $2. You want to make 100 million, you make $102 million. You will never exceed your highest expectation. I told you yesterday, I've been talking shit. I'm the greatest since I'm probably 17. Since I figured out, I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that I was good looking. Tall, good looking, and I could fuck all night. I don't know why it took me that long. I'm just happy that I figured it out by 17. And the world's never been the same for me. Whereas, and although my parents were telling me, keep your head down, all the things that I've told you, right? And our only goal for Danny is to keep him alive until he reaches the age of reason, yada, yada. I didn't care. I'm the greatest. I'm the fucking greatest. Starts right here, sweetheart. I'm the greatest. Here I am. Let's see, 20, 55, 58 years later, and nothing's changed. Except, as Dr. Shirley Teeter said, Danny's accomplishments caught up with his big fucking mouth. Now, in hindsight, if I was Freud, since we got him up, not Freud, but if I had Freud up here instead of Einstein, I'd say, well, he was doing that to overcompensate because of his lack in athletic ability, and the only thing that he could exceed at to prove his father that he was a real macho man was business, and so maybe that's all true, I don't know. But it doesn't make a shit, see? That's the why. That's, Clark Kent over here. I'm surprised you're not writing that down, Clark. All I know is the how, because it's worked. It's afforded me no backup plan. Because when you say you're the fucking greatest, what is below the greatest? Nothing. When we talk about goals and aspirations, when I saw myself on Mount Rushmore, which is true, 1993 when I'm setting up my goals, and there's a slide on my social media now, me on Mount Rushmore, and me with Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, I meant it. As opposed to the extent that you kids have set out goals. And getting back to the tennis guy, he wasn't interested in you if you were an also-ran. Now, we had a kid here 2 or 3 years ago that was a student at one of that camp. He sat about there where you are. He cried during, I didn't see the movie with him, but he cried, I'm told, during the movie. He cried when I'm talking about it, because he was one of those kids that apparently the coach had shunted away because he wasn't in the top elite. He cried. He paid a lot of money to get abused, beaten, and then he left. He now is originally from South America. He is a big, he breeds championship dogs or something. What else about him? Yes, sir.
Yeah, he doesn't think, he just reacts, and then he doesn't look back.
Hear that, Clark? He doesn't think. Now, this is where you should really start to look sick. And you do look sick. You don't look well, none of you. Because your subconscious is processing. By the third day, you know whether you got any chance of doing this at all. Today's that day. Instead of just the bravado bullshit, I'll get it done, I'll do whatever it takes, you are now processing. Well, fuck. I was worried about the cold calls, but fuck. Andre's only made 41 calls a week. Even I can probably do that. Because if it were easy, I would have created a trillion trillionaires. It's not easy. It's the only game in town you don't have to have any money. Which, even though some of you got a few pennies, still no money. It's the only game in town that there's only one movable part, motivated seller. It's the only game in town that I'm aware of that we give you the templates, the speeches to make. You don't make them, but we give them to you. And it's the only game in town where you can see people one after one after one that, yeah, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy. I'm the only game in town. What else about Nick? Okay. Doesn't know how to play tennis, the greatest tennis coach of all time. Now, before you ask me a question today, Clark, you think about it, you process that through your fucking melon brain before you open your mouth for your next question. And I say that for everybody, because now the seminar gets tough from this point forward. I will not put up with any fucking stupidity. And there is such a thing as a stupid fucking question. You should have read all the material I told you to before you got here. And it's already obvious to me that you haven't. So now we're going to get tough. Real world. Sam Walton said it. I've said it for the 2 days before today. It's how you frame the expectations of your employees, your wife, everybody else when you go back. Because remember, there's never an easy time to make a hard decision. There's never an easy time to tell your significant other, honey, I mean, that's the old days. That's if you're serious about this. Those are the old days. That's not today. Sam Walton, we could do a film on him. He's an asshole too. He was an asshole too. Smart asshole. It's all about framing expectations. I told you, and I've said it many times online, I didn't know how much $1 million was until I was 22 years old. I'd never heard the word $1 million. Maybe I never heard it in a movie or a commercial or fucking anything. And I'm in the military, and I walk into the officers club, and at Ramstein, which is still considered one of the best officers club. They don't have officers club now because now they bundle everybody together, but that's a whole other story. That's one of the best officers club in the United States military, and about 3 times as many of you guys are all at the bar drinking as fast as you can get drinks down your. And I asked a friend of mine, I said, "What's the story?" He says, "Dave inherited $1.4 million, $1,400,000." I said, "Could you write that on a napkin, John?" It's a true story. He put 1,400. That's the first time, summer of 1968, before my 23rd birthday, I had seen $1 million written down. And then I said, like any good young guy, let's drink up. I mean, he may run out of money. I didn't know how much $1 million was, but he bought drinks for like 6 or 7 hours, and everybody got fucked up beyond all recognition. That's the first time. If somebody had framed that for me early on, I didn't plan on being poor, but I knew everybody around me was poor. It's one of the reasons I wanted to join the military. Either that, I was on my way to prison because of all the trouble I got in. And then shortly thereafter, and when you look for opportunities, and you're going to look at things differently now, because they're going to be opportunities. Well, fuck it. Is that a roll-up? Is that a this? Is that a that? Could I convince the sellers to 100% seller finance? You're going to look at things differently. So shortly thereafter, I got an award from the United States Army Europe, part of NATO, for coming up with an idea, which I'm not a computer guy, but I came up with an idea how to save $3 million over 10 years. And I got an award. And the award was a $50 war bond if I kept it 25 years, but it was worth $6.75 then. I got an award, and I was at an award ceremony. I got an award, and there's pictures of it around that I'm collecting this award from a general, Army general. And then 2 or 3 days later, now remember, I saw $1.4 million for the first time. So now I'm framed. I'm looking at millions. I would have never come up with the idea to save $3 million if I hadn't seen $1.4 million on a piece of fucking paper. So now I've regrouped. And I didn't have a lot of education like a lot of people in this room. I regrouped, and I said, well, fuck, I've got a new vista. I'm looking at things differently. I never looked in terms of dollar signs, and especially in terms of dollar signs for me. And I'm standing at a bar with 2 general officers, a 2-star general on this side, a 1-star general on this side, General Woodward Vaughn, and this is Roy Atterbury. And General Vaughn says, Danny, I'm a first lieutenant then. Danny, you should buy drinks for us all. And I said, yes. I bought drinks, $1.25, something like that. And he said, I played Clark Kent there, and I said, why do you think I should buy, I bought the drinks, but why, General? He says, well, you got that big award from IBM. I said, that big award is $6.75, and when I buy the next round of drinks, that will have expired. And he says, but a young kid like you could get rich in the civilian world. A light bulb as big as this room went off in my head. Rich, civilian world, East LA. I was out of the Army in 6.5 months. You'd still be spreadsheeting it. You would. Well, what am I giving up on my pension? All the things you can think of. I would have been out in 6.5 hours If I just hit the general, I would have been thrown out and got a dishonorable discharge. I'd have been out in about 6 weeks. And the rest is history. But I've always pulled the trigger. I've never been afraid of the consequences. When you go back, how you frame your future with your, whatever you call them, will dictate whether you make this work or not. And most of you are going to frame it just as, okay, I'm going to ask a question. How many of you, not the March guy, the March kid, give him a little slack, the March guy, but how many of you have attempted to get a chairman before you got here? Okay. About a third of you. The people that attempted to get a chairman, what did you use? What format? What platform?
I took Whipple's course and used Whipple's script.
No, but I mean, where did you go? Google, link.
How did I find him?
Yeah.
I started with LinkedIn,
Okay,
the one you picked.
and you? And you? Who else? And you failed. And I told you yesterday, you're not doing something right. Didn't I? Don't you say yes? It's impossible that this little fucking Chinaman couldn't he's doing something wrong. If you can't find a chairman with LinkedIn, you ought to blow your fucking brains out. We give you tools that work. You shouldn't have gone out and got a chairman because you all did it wrong. Guess what? I've never had anybody do it right that did it before they came to the seminar. Never. How's that possible? No, because you need the extra juice between what's online. Not have a board meeting. By the way, that is online. Not to have a board meeting. You just didn't look far enough. Okay, well, but you didn't do it, did you? Yeah, okay, well, okay, let's just stop right there. He read it. He's no Einstein, and he's certainly not Sam Walton. I don't want you to answer. Why did he still do it? Anybody? Why did he still do it? No, even though he read not to do it. Yes! Thank you. Self-sabotage, you fucking old git. Self-sabotage. Most of you have lived your whole fucking lives on a path of self-sabotaging. Even the 2 or 3 of you that are ostensibly successful in your professions. And down deep inside in the core, in your being, you know why. You know why. Okay, YouTube, thank you.